were they to a deal?
Yeah, I was a member of Istanbul process, and it was the most drift of agreements we can have. They even closed the two very, very dangerous for Ukraine previous agreements, like a Minsk I and Minsk II. And this agreement can contain even the question of Crimea, to 10 years of discussion, or 15 years of discussion of status of Crimea. And that means security for Black Sea region for our export and import.
So why did it not happen?
I don't know. Nobody knows, because mid-agreement in Istanbul came back for the Kiev, and after Bucha, we heard from president we stopped the negotiations. Next meeting have to be in 9 of April, and it's 2 or 3 April. It's the 3rd or 2nd April. It was declined.
So the sequence, just so I get this clear, the sequence is: did you go to Istanbul?
Yes.
So you came back with the negotiating party?
Yes, completely. Yes, it was successful. We opened the champagne bottle, for this, because
you actually opened a bottle of champagne in Istanbul.
Yes, because it was completely successful negotiations. When they start the war, they provide to 5th or 6th attacks on the Kiev. And every rebuild attacks, they get out one of the point of this agreement. So the demilitarization, denazification, something Russian language, Russian church, and something like this. In the end of the month, it was one question, not decision questions, the question of amount of Ukrainian armed force in the peacetime. And president says, I could decide this question directly with Mr. Putin. This Istanbul agreement was a protocol of intentions, and it was completely 90% preparing for the directly meeting with Putin and Zelensky. It was the next step of negotiations.
So what part did Bucha play in that? What was the sequence, and how did Bucha derail that process?
I really didn't know. I know the president was shocked about Bucha. All of us was shocked about Bucha. And I was in Bucha, and the second day of the Russian forces was repelled. And he started thinking how he could provide negotiations and meet Putin directly after this. He's completely changed by face when he came in Bucha and see what has happened. A lot of people say the Prime Minister Johnson came in Kiev and declined these negotiations with Russia, but I don't know exactly, is it true or false? This is a problem.
The Prime Minister Boris Johnson definitely did come to Kiev at that time.
Yes,
but
he came to Kiev, but nobody knows except I think Mr. Zelensky and Boris Johnson himself what they spoke about. Because
what do you think? Do you think Boris Johnson was involved?
I don't know. I won't even say yes or not, because it's very sensitive questions.
Just so I understand, then, was it that the troops withdrew and that the horrors of Bucha became visible during that time? They didn't actually take place during those days. Is that right?
They getting out probably, I don't remember exactly, from the 2nd of April. And I was in Bucha next day.
So you think Russia was sincere?
And president getting one more day later, so it could be 3rd or 4th of April. And next meeting have to be in 9 of April. So something happened in these 5 days. But we are the members of negotiations group, was provided by we stopped any negotiations. When we ask how it could be getting back, the president says somewhere, sometimes, not now.
So something changed in Zelensky's mind during that period.
Yeah, absolutely. And historical have to find answer what has happened these 5 days.
And do you think Russia was sincere that they would have stuck to that negotiation settlement, the intention, as you call it? Do you believe that you could have done that deal with Russia and they would have stuck to that deal? Russians
shows their readiness for still providing negotiations. We decline. We was a side which declined these negotiations. But now, after 2 years ago, I think it was unreal to make an agreement this time. The main reason for me is it's a very easy way for Mr. Putin to change this Russian-Ukrainian war for war against anti-colonial war against global South against global West. And I think the system of oppositions between West and South is so huge. It's including the question of Israeli-Palestinian war, including the question of Taiwan, it's including a lot of different questions. The speed when the BRICS getting more shows me it's no way to make agreement, because Russian-Ukrainian war, Russian invasions opened the box of Pandora, which is a lot of huge numbers of problems, which is not could be insufficient by Ukrainian and Russian agreement. It's more and more highest level of problems.
Is it a world war?
I think it's a world war. It's not even war. I think it looks for me like a 13-year war, which was in the earlier of 17th century. For me, it looks like that in Europe, because the modern age start this time. And for me, it's if we get in speaking philosophically, is the end of the modern era now. And the modern era start from the 30 years war and have to be end by the 30 years war.
What do you mean by it being the end of the modern era?
The modern, period of humanity development, is ending, I think. It's quite philosophical discussion if you want.